All right, the next page that I'm going to do, when I flipped over this page, I notice I have from the thicker, this is from the thicker Sharpie. The thicker Sharpie, you can see through the back side of the page. And so I thought, okay, so I'm going to want something here that will cover those black lines so that that won't be distracting to my eye. And so what I'm going to do is a stripe. I'm going to cut strips of my magazine pages, and I'm mainly looking at color and texture. I'm not going to try to cut strips where there's actually a thing we can recognize represented in the strips. I'm just going for like color and texture and things like that. And so I'm going to cut strips relatively the same width. And when I glue them on my collage, I'm gonna do a double page spread on this one. So I'm gonna take up 2 pages on this particular collage. It's a very dynamic, energetic page. So it's a good exercise to do if you have a lot of energy, whether it's positive energy, what you're associating as positive energy, or whether what you're associating as maybe uncomfortable energy or negative energy. It's a very high energy page because the stripes on this page are going to go from the top left down towards the bottom right. So we're starting high energy and falling down. And then we're going to, on this page, we're going to go, the stripes are going to go the other direction from the bottom left to the top right. So the energy is rising. So we have high energy, lowering, lower energy, rising. So it's a very energetic, dynamic design once you get done. So what I'm going to do, I'll show you with a couple, and then I'm going to turn off the camera because you do not want to watch me cut a bunch of strips. So I'll just going to, here, I'll do this cover. So this has got a lot of good color and such like that. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm just going to start cutting strips this way. And if you wanted them all exact and precise, you could do it with a paper cutter, but I'm just going to use my scissors. So let me get rid of this. I'm looking on the back side to see if there's, if it was filled with color, I could use that side as well. This one also has color on it, scattered colors. So what I can do, like for this section right here is like letters. I'm not going to necessarily want words because I don't want it identified as anything. But if I come to the back side, I may end up with color patterns I like. So I'm going to try to remember when I'm cutting my strips to flip my paper over to see if there's colors on the other side that I could use. So this is what I do. So either paper cutter or scissors, however you're comfortable. And I'm going to do strips that are about the width of my finger or slightly smaller. I'm just choosing that. It doesn't matter. You get to pick whatever you want. So I now have the strip that has a variety of texture and color on it. And then what I'll do is I'll trim off the ends so that they are flush with the edge of the book. And so I'll just start with my first stripe and put it down. So let me do that. Let me just glue this, and so we can just get started here, okay? Alrighty. And I'm just putting glue on the back of that strip that I just cut out. Okay, so I'm going to, I don't start, you can start here. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. That would work as well. So let's just do it. It doesn't matter. So I took that where I had trimmed so that it would be a nice join here. And then when I take my other strip in the other direction, okay? So I've got some hangover here, and that's fine. What I do is I flip it over to this side, And I use this edge as a guide to trim away the part that's sticking out. And you can either trim as you go, or you can wait until you have your whole collage done and then trim all the bits at once. I think I kind of flip-flop. I think I tend to trim and then I'll do several and then I'll come back and trim again. I just kind of do it as I need to do it. Now, I wouldn't necessarily, the next piece that I cut from this paper, I wouldn't necessarily want to have it go right on this piece. And it's also okay if you have a piece that comes here and stops, and then you need to have another piece. Does that make sense? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of cut some strips. And again, mine are roughly the same size, but they're not going to be perfect because I'm just kind of going for it. If you want yours to match perfectly, then I would suggest a paper trimmer or marking off with a ruler or what have you. But that's not as much something that I worry about. So I'm just roughly, and I'm sure that my edges aren't, like, I'm sure that this isn't even consistent and parallel, but it's all fine. It's all good. And then I'm just looking on the back and wondering, okay, do I want to, you know, do I want to use any of this? I'm not sure. So I'm going to set this one aside. And so now I'm going to see, okay, so I've got these. Let me see what else I can find. So I'm looking for papers that have a lot of color on them to cut some strips out of. So like I could do some strips from here. This would be some different greens and a little bit of pink going through. You know, the same thing with like these kinds of things. The reason I'm hesitating is I may want to use these images just in another collage because they're so pretty. So like this is a good one because there are these alphabet letters here where they've identified plants. And I wouldn't necessarily want those in another collage I'm doing, but if I'm cutting strips, then I can just avoid just cut that letter part out. And I'm just flipping the page to see what's on the back, and it's just all words. So this is a good candidate. So let me cut some strips out of this one. And this is rough from where I ripped, and normally that doesn't bother me at all. I was going to go up and down, but these ones are all smooth. So I think I'm going to trim this simply so it's also smooth. So I'm going to get rid of that ripped edge, and then I'll cut my strips. So this one's going to give me lots of purple and green. And this one has some red every now and again. Okay, and what I'm going to do here, because I don't want that alphabet letter, because I don't want things that my brain is going to identify. I want to just be looking at like pattern and color rather than my brain identifying specific things. So let me glue one of these on. How about if we glue this one here? So I'll cut this, and I'm going to put glue on the back of this strip. And I am not concerned whether these angles, match up. I don't worry about that. Now, when I do my next strip, let's see, let's not do that same. How about this? This is different. Okay, this is the back side, I think, but this is going to work for me. When I glue this strip on, I will leave a little bit of a gap. You don't have to. You could also just butt them up right next to each other. But my eye tends to like to have a little bit of like resting space, if that makes sense. I get overstimulated easily, so I like to have some plain areas for my eye. And what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to cut this one and we'll join up with another strip so you can see how I do that. I'm noticing this red arc is really pulling my eye. So I may even like cut a little strip and put it right on top of here. So my eye isn't getting distracted by that red curve there. Cause I notice my eye is pulling there. And this kind of this similar here. We could just do the daisies. Let's do that. Okay, let me glue this. And I even have a little gap where I join the ends here. And you don't have to. You can butt those right up and you can scooch these right together so there's no white space. Trim these off. Okay. So you kind of, this needs a little more glue. You kind of have a sense of what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to cut some more so I have a more variety of strips. And I'll cut more of them into these small pieces. One thing that I think will happen, because this is strong one piece, and this is strong one piece, I think this V shape is going to become very dominant, is my guess. We'll see with the other magazine pages that I choose if that ends up being true. But I think the fact that there's not a break in the pattern, it just goes solid to solid, I think that's going to be a very strong design that's going to pull my eye, but we'll see. And I do know I want to cover up this, I don't like this red arc. It's just really pulling my eye and I don't like it. So I know I'm going to cover this up, but I don't want you to watch me do all this cutting and gluing. So I'll finish the page. I'll turn off the camera. I'll finish the page and then I'll come back so you can see what this looks like. Okay, I just wanted to come and show you, I'm not done, but I've been working on my strips, and I just wanted to show you what mine looks like, just to give you a point of reference. Okay, so I'm going to continue on cutting and gluing. Okay, here is that very, very dynamic collage. Some of my strips are whole, and then some of my strips have been joined up. And I went all the way down to like the little corner, and what I do is I put a bigger piece on there and then I just cut it down using the edge of the paper as a guide with my scissors. So this page has a lot of energy. So if you're at a point where you're feeling a lot of energy and you don't know what to do with it, whether it's happy, positive energy, or whether it's maybe more uncomfortable, chaotic energy, this is a good expressive art exercise to help release some of that energy. I will say this is one of the longer collages. First off, because it's a double page spread. So I covered 2 pages here, so that will take more time. But it's also longer because of the individual strips and then the going back and cutting as the strips are hanging off the edge, the trimming the excess part off again. What I have found works well for me in terms of getting a variety of color and pattern is I will find maybe 3 or 4 different pages out of a magazine that have a lot of color. And if there's something on the back side as well, that's great, because then you can cut your strips and you can flip your strip over and you might have some really interesting color combinations and texture patterns on that flip side as well. So then you get kind of double duty out of your paper. And it doesn't matter whether you cut the strips long ways, like this way, or if you cut your strips this way. It doesn't matter, because we can go anytime there's something that's too short, we can go and put 2 strips together. Now, what I will try to avoid is I will try to avoid having 2 joining areas right next to each other. There was one spot on here, and now of course I can't find it, where they weren't next to each other, but they were close. Yeah, I can't find it anymore. So I guess it doesn't matter. There's so much activity on this page. Yeah, so it's when you're feeling overstimulated and you need to release some of that extra energy, this is good because it takes a long time, and it's kind of methodical with the cutting of the strips and the gluing them down. So it's a good way to release. Now, I found this was on a one of the pages that I had cut. There was this little scrap left over from when I had cut the strips off. And as I was cleaning my desk, I just happened to notice it, and it said, "and more." And more. I think that's a perfect name for this design, and more. So I might maybe I'll put this on a strip where there's some contrast. And just like stick it, just kind of like put it like that, just sort of, not a whole lot, but that would be fun now to find a few more words or phrases and to kind of scatter them on these diagonals. So I think I will do that. I think I'll go and look and see if I can find some more words and phrases. And because now I'm going to add something else to this page, I will come back and show that to you when I have found some more words and phrases and glued them on this page. So I will return. Okay, so I actually only, I found one other word, backbone. And so I have "and more backbone." And for some reason, this seems complete to me now. So I'm not feeling like I need to go put any more words on here. This feels resolved and complete. So I'm going to leave it just like this. I am noticing now I did not come back and cover up that red. But now that I have all of this busyness and kind of sensory overload happening, my eye is not getting pulled back to this. I just happened to remember that I didn't cover it. So I'm going to leave it. I think it's good. There we go. And more backbone.